Welcome to Keepin' It Real, your go-to radio show for fresh insights and vibrant introductions. Get ready to dive into a world where we offer you the latest in real estate wisdom and the juiciest community tidbits. From expert advice courtesy of top realtors to opportunities to give back through local charities, we've got you covered. Plus, we'll shine a spotlight on the young athletes driving our local sports scene and uncover the buzzworthy happenings both in town and beyond. Stay tuned for a jam-packed hour of enlightenment and entertainment right here on Keepin' It Real.
What's in a name? Everything. Long Realty has been a cornerstone of Southern Arizona's real estate market for nearly 100 years. Our name is our bond, and our agents are our strength. Trust in the name that stands for experience and expertise. Visit longrealty.com or call 520-459-4993 to connect with an agent today. Long Realty. Smart move.
Good morning this Saturday morning, and welcome to Keepin' It Real, brought to you by Sherry Ethell and the team right here at Long Realty Studios. We're so glad to be with you today. Hope your day is starting off good and that you're enjoying this beautiful weather that we're having. Now, this is a special show for me, so I just want to give a shout out to my dad, who is 85 years old today, 85. And so he's seen a lot, and that's one of the neat things about this show is a lot of times we bring personalities to the forefront. People who live here who've done different things and distinguished careers and other kinds of things that have brought them to our little town. And my dad, Jerry Ethell, is one of those kinds of guys. He was on Task Force 1 with the U.S. Navy. So that was the first nuclear-powered cruise around the world. It was the USS Enterprise, the USS Bainbridge, and his ship, the Long Beach. He did serve a little bit of time with the USS Enterprise, but you'll hear all about those things and the stories about his adventure there. And so we're going to bring that to you today. So sit back and relax, pour that second cup of coffee, or if you're driving, enjoy the show while you're driving around and enjoying your day. We'll be right back after these brief messages, and we'll give them into the studio and get started. Keeping it real with Sherry Ethell and the team at Long Realty Studios.
In a town with heart and history, the Sherry Ethell Team is the key. Serving service that we agree. For military law and retirees. Stress-free process you will see. Personal care is our guarantee. Real integrity, real results. The Sherry Ethell Team, we never halt. Real experts here to guide your way, making dreams come true every single day. Trusted team that knows just what to do. The Sherry Ethell Team, working for you. Real integrity, real results. The Sherry Ethell Team is your one and only call.
Welcome to another edition, another week of the Keepin' It Real radio show. I'm your host and team realtor for the Sherry Ethell Team right here at Long Realty behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard. And I'm with a special guest today who is going to walk us through the early years of nuclear naval power. Now, it's something we've never talked about on the show, but my guest and I were talking about it earlier, and deeper we got into the material, the more I knew I just had to have him on the air on the show. And I found the topic very interesting, and I hope you will as well. I'm here with Jerry Ethell. Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, man of few words. And yes, he is related. He's actually my dad. I had George on the show with a number of other artisans sometime back, and George is my father-in-law. But I didn't know it on that one that he was even coming to this show, so it was a total surprise. So it only seemed fitting that I would have you on the show, Dad. Appreciate you coming on and talking about this. Did you even know that George was on the show too?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was on the show sometime back talking about his walking sticks. We had some folks from Grateful Goods and a bunch of different artisans, and anyway, he happened to be one of them, but he showed up here and I didn't even know he was going to be here, so that was kind of interesting. Now, we've talked about your Navy experience numerous times, especially about nuclear power, because I find it interesting and an interesting topic, and you really don't bump into that too many people that have that kind of experience. So I always like hearing about it. But I was really surprised in our last conversation because I learned a whole new bunch of stuff that I'd never even heard before. And so I hope we can draw some of that out today for our listeners. But before we dive in, the first thing we do is we always introduce our guests, kind of give a little bit of background about the person and where you're from and all that kind of stuff. So first thing is, how long you been in Sierra Vista?
5.5 years.
5.5 years.
Right.
And you were from where before?
Well, it's from Oregon.
How long were you there?
Well, I was a resident of Oregon for almost 80 years.
Okay. So a long time. So you've been here for a little while, a few years now. How do you like Sierra Vista?
It's good. I like the people here. They're real friendly, and it's a great place to live.
Yeah, good. It's been a long time ago, and you've been a long time retired as well now. But what kind of line of work were you in before? After the Navy, before you moved here, what kind of work did you do?
Well, I was in electronics, and I worked in electronics, worked up in that field, and then went into management, and then I was managing and manufacturing for many, many years. And I actually started off before the electronics. I was an electrician, and I worked as an electrician for a short while.
Okay, before you got into electronics. And of course,
Right.
Electronics, that was early years in electronics. What years did you actually start in the electronics field after being an electrician? I guess that's still similar, but what was the time about that?
I had some electronics training when I was in the Navy, and I actually started in electronic field in '66.
So you actually had some experience in the Navy then as well?
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I brought you on the show is because you were part of something very new, and that was nuclear power. It really wasn't something that was as prevalent as it is today. This is more than 60 years ago. So tell us a little bit about your training. Now, I know you had some classroom training before you went to your OJT, right?
Right. Well, we had 6 months of classroom training where we learned all about, it was kind of strange because you had mathematics from basic math clear up to calculus.
Okay.
And everything in between. That was a 3-month course.
Pretty
And
quick,
so
yeah.
It was very accelerated. And we also had physics and thermodynamics because we had to learn all about heat exchanges and all that. And atomic theory, lots of atomic theory.
And that really wasn't all that old at that time even, really, right? I mean, it'd been around for a couple of decades, but it was a pretty new field. And so you only got a few months of training before you went on to your OJT?
It was very accelerated training. That's why if you had some background, I helped some people who didn't have as much scientific and mathematic background as I had because it was so accelerated and you had to learn things so fast.
Right. Okay. So was that kind of a trial period for some people? Did some people wash out of that program, or was it everybody makes it and you just kind of you're trying to just learn and get as much as you can?
I don't know of anybody who actually dropped out in our class or the class before us. They overlapped 3 months apart.
Okay.
We were only about the third or fourth class that went through that.
And then then after your classroom training, you went on to your on-the-job training, and where was that? That was someplace else. Where was your classroom training at?
That was in Vallejo, California.
Okay.
And then we went to Idaho Falls, Idaho, and it's actually out in the desert there between Idaho Falls and Arco, Idaho.
Okay.
And there's several reactor sites out there. Some of them were for different electrical power training areas. An Army, they had a facility out there, and then the Navy had their facility. They had built up a replica of 2 of the reactors that was in the Enterprise, and that was our on-the-job training, was dealing with those 2 reactors and basic propulsion system of the electrical and propulsion system.
Working, how they work together and how that that power then transfers to the ship screws and whatnot.
Right.
Okay.
The power is actually transferred in through a steam heat exchanger kind of thing. So it's the reactor primary system goes through and transfers heat to a secondary system, which is the steam system for the ship, that propulsion system, and also runs generators and
other things.
Yeah, other things, yes.
Right. And you mentioned that the Army had a facility that was SL1, and of course we know now, I'm sure that was kept secret for a long time, but you can find it on the internet. SL1, was the first had the first nuclear accident, I guess we'll say, and you were there afterwards. Well, you were at another facility, but it was still the same kind of time period, just a little bit later, right?
Right. I think it was. I think the accident occurred about 3 months before I got there.
Okay.
They had the facility closed off at that time, but it was closed off for a year, and you couldn't get within a mile of it because it was closed off that far out because of the radiation that was the exposure.
And you had heard a little bit about that. What had you heard about the accident? What happened there?
Well, I heard quite a bit of details there about the accident. They were working on a smaller reactor that was going to be used in the field, was what they were thinking about doing.
So potentially mobile.
Yes, a mobile reactor for field power. The thing was, it was since it was small, it also had mostly mechanical structures, so the control rods for the reactor, which actually is what you move up and down in the reactor core to cause it to produce the heat when you pull them up and shut it down when you drop them down in.
And what kind of liquid then is in there? Is it just water?
Well, in that particular reactor, it was a chemical, but it was not a water-cooled reactor. It was a different
material. Okay.
Yeah, but it was a liquid.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened there? The one got stuck or something, I remember?
Yes, one of the rods got stuck partially up, and they couldn't get it to raise up to, they couldn't get it to go down either, but it was stuck. The reactor was mostly shut down.
Okay.
But because the rod was stuck and it was such a portable unit, the one guy got up on top of it and was trying to pull the rod up. But the trouble with nuclear power is it's instant response. So it doesn't explode, it just creates an instant heat.
Okay.
What happened is he moved the rod, all right, but he only moved it a short distance. That was enough to produce an instant amount of heat. It flashed into steam, the liquid inside the core, and blew it right out the top, or the control rod out the top. And
what are these control rods made of?
Well, they're typically made of cadmium or hafnium.
Okay.
That was probably the same kind of material that he had. The only thing is that they're like a X shape.
Okay.
They go in between, right around the X shape. It's also X shape as the core. The uranium is shaped down there like that, and what you're doing is exposing that, and that allows it to have a nuclear reaction and produce heat really fast.
Okay. This is probably a good time to take a quick pause. Let's take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsors for just a short minute, come back and talk a little bit more about what happened then. We know that the core was exposed and this guy's trying to push on it. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about that. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Discover excellence in real estate with the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty, your premier choice in Cochise County. Sherry's amazing team brings honesty, expertise, and a deep understanding of the local market. Whether you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned homeowner, they're committed to your peace of mind and handle every detail for you. Their approach? personalized service. Above and beyond transactional real estate, building lifelong relationships, nationwide connections, local expertise. There's a reason this team is amongst the top realtors in Arizona and across the nation. You owe it to yourself to call or visit the Sherry Ethell Team, the top team at Long Realty, behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard in Sierra Vista. Call or text 717-599-2439 or Google us for more info. Real integrity, real results.
Welcome back. This is the Sherry Ethell Team's Long Realty Studios Keepin' It Real radio show. I'm Dion Ethell. I'm your host. I'm here with Jerry Ethell, my dad, who is actually a Navy veteran, and we're talking a little bit about his nuclear power experience because it's very unique, very early on nuclear power, and I thought it would just be kind of interesting to have him on the show today. And so we were talking before the break about SL1. It was an Army facility, you were saying, and it was a training facility. It was a mobile reactor of some kind or something that was planned to be mobile, and a rod had gotten stuck. What happened after that?
Well, by manually pulling the rod up, it moved a small amount, and that was enough to expose enough of the core to cause it to heat really fast, caused a steam explosion that a lot of steam pressure all of a sudden pushed the rod, actually shot the rod right out the top. And since he was leaning over the rod, it took him with it and actually stuck him on the ceiling.
Good grief. So, and this, these, like you were saying before, I think the break, you said that the transfer of energy and the change in a nuclear reactor is instantaneous, right? So it happens very, very fast. It's not something that's going to build up. And you had always told us, too, that nuclear reactors really don't blow up. There's a lot of misconception about that. They don't explode. It's not like a bomb. No,
they can't. They actually can't explode. When you're going to make a bomb, you have to make it so that it's forced pieces of uranium, and they're forced together really fast and really hard for it to explode. And then it causes a chain reaction that it actually explodes. But you have to have another explosion to force these two together.
I see. And so with a nuclear reactor, you're really moving these rods up and down to create this heat that then creates power.
Right.
Am I right?
It's instantaneous, but when you normally, like with the shipboard reactors, you move the rods very slowly. So they move up very slowly. They expose a portion of the core that heats up, and so it's a controlled heat.
I see.
You don't just rip them up like that.
Right. Diving a little deeper into your background. So after you get done, you're assigned to a ship. What ship are you first assigned to in the Navy?
Well, the first ship I was assigned to was a carrier, the Riscony, out of San Diego, and that was before I went into the nuclear schooling.
Oh, okay. So that's even before you went to school there.
Right.
So I actually jumped ahead. So you actually went to a carrier for about how long?
About a year.
About a year, and then you went to nuclear power school.
Right.
Okay. So then you've gone to nuclear power school, and I guess you did some. Didn't you do some? You were an instructor there as well at that power plant.
Well, right. Everybody usually, after their training at the Idaho site, you have 6 months of school training in Vallejo and then 6 months on the site in Idaho, and you're pretty well finished with that because you've qualified kind of on the ship. Well, the replica of the ship. Anyway, then you get your orders, and everybody got their orders but me.
Okay.
and the reason was because they didn't have it ready yet. The Long Beach was out to sea, and they were coming into the shipyards. So, and that was the ship I was going to be assigned to. So they kept me there, and while I was there, I got a chance to be an instructor to all the new people coming in, the next class coming in.
And that was kind of handy because, as you, I think, had told me, you were doing something, learning something there that was directly, I guess, similar to what was going on in the dry docks there where the ship was eventually set.
Well, right. The main thing that was kind of extra learning was that we had expended part of the core of that reactor, one reactor. So we were replacing the fuel cells in that reactor. So we had it shut down, and it was kind of opened up so that we could get into the pumps on the primary side. When you brought out a fuel cell, you brought it out with the rod inside of it. Okay? So it was all one unit that you brought out, and there was several units in that core. You think of it as a big cube.
Okay.
But all these little cubes
inside of it.
Inside that were long.
Is there any danger when it's all shut down and you're removing these rods? Is there any danger there?
Not exactly, because you have the rods in it, and that absorbs all the nuclear reaction.
Okay.
So it doesn't produce any heat, and there's no liquid in there to overheat and explode like that Army situation.
Did that make any of you guys nervous when you had heard about the Army, situation, everything? I'm sure you heard about it right away. What kinds of things went through you guys' minds? Anything?
We didn't have that kind of situation, so we weren't worried about
the same problems.
That kind of problem. What we really thought was that was very poorly managed to have that guy try
sorry, Army.
Sorry, Army, to try and free it up that way
manually,
because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And they didn't recognize the danger at that time. When that control rod was released, then the core was exposed, so part of it melted down, but it also created so much radiation in that room that the other people were terribly exposed to that radiation, and 2 other people died from it.
Right, and one person actually survived for a little while, and I think you had told me one time that the nurse was exposed that was treating him.
Yes, we had what we had is on our radiation, you had a limit of how much radiation you could get, and your accumulated lifetime dosage was calculated too. And this nurse received her lifetime dosage of
just treating him. Wow.
Because he was so radioactive.
Wow. So now you're headed off to go to Long Beach. Long Beach is getting some retrofitted. What are they doing there? Same thing?
Yes.
They're
by that time they had run the Long Beach. The Long Beach was commissioned in '61. I went aboard in '62, and they were back in the yards to get a replacement of fuel cells in a reactor. So I actually knew more about what they were doing than the guys that were doing it because they had not gotten the same exposure to training like I had.
Okay.
I knew what to expect.
I see. So that was probably pretty handy for them. And for everybody, the USS Long Beach CGN-9, that was the first what?
It was the first nuclear-powered surface ship. They had submarines before that.
Okay.
But it was the first nuclear-powered surface ship. And the captain of the Long Beach, when I went aboard, who commissioned it and everything, the first captain, was also the first captain of the Nautilus.
Which was his first nuclear-powered submarine.
First nuclear-powered submarine, that's right.
Wow, a lot of firsts.
Yes, he was a pretty adventurous guy and a very bold guy, and so he was an ideal person to have as a skipper of those ships.
The guy to test it all out.
Right.
Hold that thought, because I want to come back and we'll talk about him in a second. This is the Sherry Ethell Team, Long Realty Studios, Keepin' It Real radio show, and we'll be right back after these brief messages. Stay tuned. Welcome to an exciting new chapter in real estate marketing with the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty. We're thrilled to introduce our groundbreaking radio campaign that's set to virtually transform how homes are sold in our community.
Are you looking to sell your home? Imagine your listing highlighted as not just a home of the week, but receiving continuous, exclusive attention on the airwaves until it sells. That's right. Every single Sherry Ethell Team Long Realty listing will now be featured regularly, ensuring maximum exposure to maximize your speed of sale.
Here's how it works. Each week, we'll spotlight all of our current listings in individual, engaging, and detailed 30-second radio ads. Whether you're selling a cozy starter home, a luxurious estate, or anything in between, your property will be heard by thousands of potential buyers in our local area. This innovative approach guarantees that your home remains top of mind for listeners until the perfect buyer comes along.
Why choose the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty? Because we're committed to delivering unparalleled service with a personal touch. Our new radio campaign will be just one more way we help reduce the stress of selling your home by giving it the visibility it deserves. We understand that selling a home can be a daunting process, but with your tailored marketing campaign and this kind of presence, it'll be easier and more efficient than ever.
Tune in to Canyon Country 97.7 to hear about the latest listings on our new program we're calling our Home Spotlight Series. Or catch the Keepin' It Real radio show every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for the latest on real estate tips from the experts, weekend open houses, awesome charity opportunities, great happenings in our community, and wonderful interviews with youth sports coaches and athletes.
So don't miss out on this unique opportunity to have your home featured in our exclusive radio campaign. List with Sherry Ethell Team Long Realty today and experience the magic of real estate marketing like never before.
For more information, give us a call at 717-599-2439. Sherry Ethell Team, Long Realty, behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard right here in Sierra Vista, where your home story is told until it's sold. Remember, with us, it's not just about selling houses. We make success stories for a living. Stay tuned, stay informed, and let's help you find your perfect home. Welcome back to the Keepin' It Real radio show. If you're just tuning in, my name's Dion Ethell. I'm your host. I'm a team realtor for the Sherry Ethell Team right here at Long Realty behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard. I'm here with Jerry Ethell, who is talking to us about his naval career and experience. And it's very unique because he was actually on the first nuclear-powered surface vessel, the USS Long Beach. And he kind of walked us through his training up to this point. And you were just talking about, before the break, that the guy who was the captain of the ship of the USS Long Beach had also been the captain of the Nautilus, which was the first nuclear-powered submarine. So he was kind of the guy to test all these things out. And you were saying he was kind of a adventurous soul, kind of a different kind of guy, different brand of guy. What? Give me an example of that.
Well, he was a bold type of captain, and he was supposed to come into Seattle there at Bremerton to just to show off the ship and stuff. So they were watching for him out in the bay and waiting for him to come in, expecting a submarine to float in.
Floating in,
floating in on the surface, and he was due to show up in just minutes, and they thought, oh, wow, he's really late. But then he surfaced right beside the pier.
Oh, my gosh.
So he had come in underwater right to the pier and then surfaced right beside the pier.
Right there at the pier.
Yes.
That probably shocked some people. Maybe wasn't well received. I don't know.
He probably got a little bit of a scolding about taking that kind of a bold step. But
a little bit risky.
That's just the way he was.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of guys you want, leading the way for something that's pioneering the future. And so let's kind of take us a little bit further. So once you're assigned to the USS Long Beach and you guys have got it retrofitted, you're underway, where was your first mission? Where'd you go?
Well, Long Beach was a guided missile cruiser.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was go down to the Caribbean to do some exercises with guided missiles. When you leave port there from Philadelphia, you go down the river.
Okay,
I got to tell you about this. We had a high mast, so they had to take the mast loose on the very top and kind of fold it down so that they could go under the bridge.
Oh, wow.
But that was not quite enough. What they had to do was they had to make a sharp turn so that the ship was kind of leaning when they went under that bridge.
Are you kidding? So they had to get this thing under steam and get it sideways, kind of, to get it underneath.
Kind of leaning. So
how do they do that?
Well,
just take a sharp turn.
They just make a sharp turn right at the bridge, just so that it would lean over. And the main thing was that so that it wouldn't possibly hit the bridge. Now it might have been okay without that turn, but that was to give them some extra.
I bet that's probably not something you'd see today.
No.
Wow. Holy moly, that's crazy. So, wow.
Of course, I did not see that. I was told that because I was the reactor operator
you were down below.
Yeah, I was the reactor operator we had a number 1 and number 2 reactor.
And so here you are, you're on one of the 2 reactors on the ship, and you're one of the main guys handling the reactor. What's that like? Is that pretty far down in the ship? What's that look like? I mean, what's that feel like? Are they long hours? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, normally you had a 4-hour shift.
Oh, that's short.
But,
shorter than I thought.
Right, but we had sometimes because we had a small crew, you'd be 4 on and 4 off when we were at sea.
Oh, good grief.
So, and actually in port, we would have one reactor operating and the other one not. And sometimes both of them shut down because we would go on shore power.
Okay.
So
there wasn't a need to have it running.
Right.
Okay.
Now, the shore power caught us at one time when we were in Norfolk because they lost shore power. I mean, the system went out in Norfolk. So they lost the power to the community. Okay. And we have an emergency system on the ship that starts up these gas-powered, diesel-powered generators.
Okay.
So our generator naturally started up to replace the power. But since we were still connected to shore, it tried to supply all the electricity to Norfolk.
Oh, my God. What the heck?
But it was a little bit too much for it.
Yeah, right. Holy cow, I guess. So tell me a little bit about, again, you went down and you did some exercises, some missile exercises. This is a guided missile cruiser, the USS Long Beach. How long was it before you guys actually did the first nuclear cruise around the world with the USS Enterprise and the USS Bainbridge, and I guess also the submarine, what was it called?
It was Seawolf.
Seawolf, yeah.
Well,
so how long was that before?
We were out of the yards in '62, essentially, and so in '63 we went to the Mediterranean on a cruise. '64 we went back to the Mediterranean on a cruise, and it was in '64 that we actually went on the world cruise after our Mediterranean experience. Yeah, we met the Enterprise in the Mediterranean, and we sailed with it for a little bit, and then we picked up the Bainbridge as we left the Mediterranean to go around the world. And I'm not sure where this Seawolf came in.
No,
it never did surface. So when we went clear around the world, it stayed underwater the whole time.
Well, how long was that?
Well, it took us about 3 months.
So that vessel it was your protection, and it never surfaced. It stayed underwater the whole time.
Well, sort of our protection. We had plenty of protection ourselves.
Right, you got a carrier and a guided missile cruiser back in those days, and you're the most powerful thing on the ocean probably at that time.
Yes.
So so this was kind of the test to see how nuclear power work together. These 4 ships these 4 vessels.
Yes, we were in Nuclear Task Force 1. They called us, and it was so that we could go around, because normally you have to be refueled with diesel engines and stuff. So we were nuclear power. You don't have to refuel a nuclear power,
so you'd be out
except
as long as you need to be.
A year or so. So we went around the world and did not have to refuel. We stopped at Karachi, Pakistan, and we put on before we got there, we the Enterprise put on an air show for South Africa.
Okay.
And then we went on to Australia, and in Australia, actually, the Vietnam War had already started, and it was building up. So, because we were nuclear power, they didn't want us trouble as a fleet. So, the Bainbridge went in on the west side of Australia, which they went into Perth. We went into Melbourne on the Long Beach, and the Enterprise went in to Sydney. And I have no idea where the Seawolf was.
Yeah.
During that time.
And then so you made this huge loop around the world, and what was that like, being the first nuclear task force and one of the very first guys running a nuclear powered ship? Was it exciting times? Was it scary time, to be doing that kind of stuff? What was that like? What'd you feel?
Well, when the Navy has a custom, when you cross the equator, then you become a shellfish.
Okay.
Okay. In order to do that, you have to go through an initiation. So we had a big initiation, and of course, I was just a polywog, which is just the northern side of the equator. So when we crossed the equator, for me to become a shellfish, I had to go through this initiation.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a big celebration kind of thing.
Yeah.
For everybody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, then when we went around the Horn of South America, that was the roughest of the two. We went around the Cape of South Africa, and the Cape was pretty rough seas, but the Horn is around South America was a lot rougher seas.
How rough?
Well, it was rough enough that you would have to kind of put a foot on the floor, and then maybe 1 foot on the wall to catch yourself from going over, and then stepping on the floor and stepping on the other wall.
And this is a pretty big ship anyway, right? I mean, but you still felt it that strong.
Oh, yeah. When you went to chow, you would have to hold on to your tray. You couldn't possibly let your tray slide.
Good grief. That must have been a little uncomfortable to sleep in, too, and that kind of stuff.
Well, yes, but I had been through that on the carrier, too. We went into rough seas where you had to hold on to your trays.
Yeah.
People lost their tray, and tables fell over and stuff like that.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
yeah, I can't even imagine. You're traveling around the world. Anything unusual happened during the course of your world cruise there with this Nuclear Task Force 1?
No. After we went from Australia, we went to New Zealand and stopped there, and then we went around and stopped at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We just anchor out in those places, and then came on back to Norfolk.
What about the other countries, military, Russia, some of these other places? Did they ever shadow you guys? Did you ever see any of those other ships, anything like that?
We would know if there was any other ships around. We had Russian submarines that would be in the area of our ships.
Yeah.
But
because I imagine they were interested. I'm sure word got out that you guys are under nuclear power and you're running. That's a pretty new thing there.
Yes, it was new to them too, but they didn't have the technology we had at that time.
Wow. They
caught up with us later, and so we didn't have much to do with that. The nuclear power is so responsive and so fast that normally a carrier takes quite a bit to get going.
Yeah.
From a dead stop. A cruiser takes less to get going, and a destroyer, which is smaller, is the fastest and so they'd fire up their burners and take off pretty fast. But when we were down in the Caribbean, one of the times we were down there, our skipper was pretty adventurous.
Right, you said that. I remember.
Wilkinson was pretty adventurous. We were steaming along with these destroyers, and one of them let off a whole bunch of black smoke, which means they fired up their burners to take off really fast. So what he did is he just gave a flank, and of course we respond very, very fast in nuclear power. So he just zipped past them, made a loop around them.
He actually did a lap around these
Lapped
destroyers.
around the destroyer.
Oh my gosh, I wonder what they were thinking.
They got a lesson on how fast nuclear power worked.
Wow. Yeah, and that must have been something during those times. And to see this, spectacle of a ship that's slower typically than them, all of a sudden just lightning fast take off and do laps around them.
Yeah. Wow.
That's pretty cool. And I think I remembered you saying that you guys did a little race while you were out there with the Enterprise, right?
Yeah, that was in the Mediterranean, and there was a couple guys in a fishing boat that probably didn't appreciate it much. They were in between us. But
I didn't hear that before.
No, they kind of got swamped.
Oh, my God.
But they stayed afloat. Anyway.
Oh, well, I guess that's good.
Because we were far enough apart. But somehow they arranged that we were going to have this drag race with the Enterprise.
And the Enterprise is a pretty big carrier.
It's a big carrier. It has 4 screws and 4 reactors, where we had 2 and 2 screws.
Okay.
But the cruiser usually would take off faster,
Okay.
Naturally. So we did. We took off faster. We got to where the Enterprise was starting to catch up to us. So our captain asked if we could give them a little bit more juice there. So we exceeded some of the specs on steam pressure, but...
So you gave it a real test?
Yes, but we didn't exceed the maximum temperature for the steam system. So we went to the very limits of it and managed to stay ahead of them. And then they had, let's see who can stop the fastest. And naturally, we stopped faster than the great big Enterprise. But in the process of stopping fast, you have to change from full ahead, flank speed ahead,
right,
to full reverse. And in doing that, they have to kind of spin the steam turbines they're shutting off the forward one and opening the other one, so
right.
They're trying to turn that screw in reverse, essentially the propeller.
Any danger to that?
The danger is that was to the reactor because you were closing off the heat. Okay. So here you're dumping a whole bunch of heat out there, and the reactor is cooled down because it's producing the most amount of heat generation, and then it all of a sudden swells up on you, and it's trying to shut down. So your pressures are going up and temperatures go up. So you end up having right on the edge of dropping the reactor, because we had safety things that would automatically trip the control rods and shut the reactor down.
Okay.
And during that process, the aft reactor, number 2, they lost their reactor. It did shut down. In the forward reactor, we didn't, and because we managed to. Well, the reactor operator has to respond with driving control rods in to shut down the heat exchange. So you have to kind of keep up with everything that's happening. You have to be pretty quick and pretty responsive.
Okay, and the other guys didn't do that fast enough, and so during that process, it shuts down, and it takes, I imagine, a while to restart and do all that through.
Yes, it
probably
takes
have to check everything.
Takes about a half hour to get it back online. Yeah, I gave him a bad time because I was the forward reactor, and we didn't shut down.
And you didn't shut down. Okay, I get it. So you got to go around Nuclear Task Force 1, on the first surface ship under nuclear power, all these different ports of entry. It must have been kind of fun as a young guy. How old were you?
Well, I was 21 and 22, something like that.
Okay.
I was 21 when I went aboard Long Beach, and
okay,
24 when I left.
Yeah, when you left that ship. No combat or anything during the course of this thing, but you did get a chance to test everything out, and I imagine we as a military must have learned a lot during the course of those trips.
One thing we learned about Long Beach is that when we were firing our missiles and stuff, we had some long-range missiles, we had some ground-to-ground missiles, and we had ground-to-air missiles kind of thing, surface-to-air. We also had some missiles that would fire at a submarine that actually dropped into the water and acted like a torpedo.
Okay.
But the missiles that we fired would go like 30 miles out and beyond, but we didn't have anything that short range. So we had to go back in the yards at one point and put some 5-inch guns on there on the Long Beach in order to have some short range protection.
So if somebody got in close, you couldn't really do much about it in the very beginning.
No, we'd have the Marines up there shooting at them with rifles.
Holy cow. Wow.
No. The thing that we did in going into ports and stuff is that people were afraid of nuclear power at that time. And so they worried about, well, is it going to explode? Is it going to cause some big radiation and stuff? The radiation levels on the reactor is tightly controlled, and what the reactor operators and people that maintain that in my division and stuff, and the electricians, all of the people that worked around the reactor had their exposure monitored constantly.
Yeah.
So we knew exactly how much radiation we were absorbing. We never had a contamination area that we had to clean up except on the incoming air ducts. Incoming from outside. So the dust in the air and the radiation from the air that you normally just breathe and take for granted, that actually
was more dangerous than what you were putting out.
Yes. It contaminated the air filters.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these brief messages, and then we'll jump back into kind of closing things out and talking about nuclear safety. This is Dion Ethell, and this is the Keepin' It Real radio show brought to you by the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty Studios. Be right back.
We're the real wayfinders, the trailblazers, the go-getters. In a town where the desert wakes before dawn, we don't just talk, we make things happen. And when we speak, it's real, it's genuine, and it's worth hearing. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on Canyon Country 97.7 FM. Join the Sherry Ethell Team for Keepin' It Real, where top realtors, local heroes, and the heartbeat of our community come together. Raw, authentic conversations, expert market insights, and the best local events you can't afford to miss. Keepin' It Real, celebrating our community. Bold, genuine, one of a kind.
Do uneasy markets have you waiting for selling? Remember the name Sherry Ethell and the Sherry Ethell Team. Visit the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard in Sierra Vista. Call or text 717-599-2439 or Google us for more information. Real integrity, real results.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Keepin' It Real, and brought to you by the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty Studios. At Long Realty, right behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard. I'm here with Jerry Ethell, a naval veteran from the USS Long Beach, who was the first nuclear-powered surface vessel and was part of Task Force 1, the very first nuclear cruise around the world with the USS Long Beach, the USS Bainbridge, and the USS Enterprise, and the Seawolf, which was a submarine. And we were talking before the break about nuclear safety, and that you were kind of describing that the only time that you had ever had any contamination was actually from the outside, from just normal air contaminating the filters. That's kind of crazy. So there's obviously, even back then, as early as we were in nuclear power, you guys were monitoring every tolerance, every piece of this, apparatus. So Tell us about
Right.
the safety piece of it too. I mean, people oftentimes, like you had described, you can't have an explosion. Nuclear reactors don't explode. They have steam explosions, which can cause, obviously, the release of radioactivity if the core is exposed, right?
Right. Like in Japan, when they had the problem there in Japan, and also 3 Mile Island and in Russia there, those were all accidents where the core was exposed, okay? The core was exposed to, it's kind of like having the control rods separated from the fuel cells. So then it was producing a bunch of heat, and it'd be so much heat that
Didn't have anywhere to go.
The actual fuel would melt down.
Okay.
So that would, of course, then all your radiation is exposed from the uranium. It's just,
And once the rods and stuff, once everything starts to melt down, that's what we hear, the meltdown, nuclear meltdown.
right.
Then there's no coming back from it, right?
No. The cleanup is pretty difficult because you have to go in and people have to be timed on how close they can get and how long they can stay there.
Be exposed. And I imagine some of those people probably get a lifetime exposure just trying to be part of the cleanup and everything.
Now, the lifetime exposure is kind of like how much you could absorb up to that point in your life.
Yeah.
Type thing. So it doesn't go beyond your age kind of thing.
Right. No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So later on you can take some more.
Take some more. But overall, you learned over the years that nuclear power is actually pretty safe. And even though there have been a few accidents over time that were attributed to various, failures, more than, we've been operating nuclear power safely for a very long time. What would you say to that from the safety perspective?
Well, it's very safe, but you have to have all of these things in place so that, I mean, just like when you first build a reactor, and we had a reactor room, okay, on the ship, and in the reactor room you had these, you had 4 loops on each reactor, okay, and the loops were primary loops where the water went from the core out to different loops, and these loops would transfer the heat into secondary systems. Okay, you had great, big, huge pumps that pumped the primary water to that. To give you an example, they were rated at 4,000 amp current capacity on these primary pumps. We had to replace one when I was in the yards, and that was the only time that I was in the reactor room, okay, because normally that's all closed off. But we worked in the reactor room, and we did not get severe exposure to radiation because it was all closed down. It was all, the reactor had been closed down for quite a while, and you have shielding around the reactor itself, and then you have shielding around the reactor room. So when it's running, there's all kinds of shielding to protect and absorb any of the radiation that comes out of the reactor. So working in the reactor room, what we had, the pipes for these pumps were 16 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
And we had to freeze that. So that was kind of interesting it was fun. We had to tape off the pipes in 2 different places and then pour liquid nitrogen down there to freeze the primary fluid.
And why were you doing that?
Well, because they had to disconnect it to take the pump out and put a new pump in and reconnect it.
Oh, wow.
And then and then we could release
That's crazy.
Liquid again.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. Last question, and I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but all this nuclear power experience, never decided to get into nuclear power?
I was going to when I first got out. Actually, when you were born, we went to...
A long time ago.
We went to Idaho, and they had the reactor sites out there, and I was kind of waiting for their new budget to come out so that they...
I see.
and had applied for a job there as a reactor operator. Another friend of mine that lived there in Idaho, he did that and got a job there, and he worked there and then went up to Richland, Washington, and worked in reactor sites up there. So I was going to do that, and but it was just taking too long to get there. So I had already applied at Tektronix in Portland, Oregon. So I called them up, and they said, well, they would pay for me to move back if I wanted to come to work there. So I said,
extra incentive.
Yes.
Okay.
So I quit my quality control job at a potato flake company and moved back to Portland.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Well, I hope everybody found that kind of interesting about nuclear power and the first task force out there. Something different. I thought we'd mix it up a little bit, talk about something very unique. A lot of you guys, I mean, you're no spring chicken, so you're getting up there in age, and probably a lot of those guys are starting to kind of go away. So this is something that's not talked about very often.
But I'm only a month older than George.
Oh, okay. All right, George, if you're listening out there, he's only a month older than you. All right. This is Keepin' It Real, the Keepin' It Real radio show brought to you by the Sherry Ethell Team. Appreciate your time. Remember, if you need anything real estate, whether it be buying or selling, come talk to the Sherry Ethell Team. Just ask for Sherry Ethell herself, our team CEO, and she'd be happy to walk you through anything and help you get to your goals. And we're always available, so happy to take your call or happy to talk to you in person if you want to come down to the office. And we'll see you next week on the Keepin' It Real radio show. Tax time is here, but before you spend your refund, consider real estate with the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty. It's a great way to move from renter to homeowner and on the road to building wealth.
Hi, I'm Sherry Ethell, Realtor and Team CEO of the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty. Think of me as your guide to all things real estate. I tailor my approach to your needs and, most importantly, your goals. It's time to come see me and get a plan for your success.
Discover excellence in real estate with the Sherry Ethell Team at Long Realty, your premier choice in Cochise County. Visit Sherry at Long Realty behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard in Sierra Vista. Call or text 717-599-2439 or Google us for more information. Real integrity, real results.
Well, folks, that's a wrap on this week's Keepin' It Real radio show. As always, we're so grateful to have you spend part of your Saturday morning with us. Whether you're sipping coffee on the porch, out running errands, or out shopping for a home, we appreciate you. If something we said today sparked a question, or if you've got a great topic or guest idea for a future episode, we'd love to hear it. You can drop your suggestion in the Keepin' It Real suggestion box at the front desk of Long Realty, right behind Denny's on Fry Boulevard. Or just shoot me an email at sherry@sherryethelteam.com or call or text me anytime at 717-599-2439. We love hearing from you. It helps us keep this show real, relevant, and rooted in our Cochise County community. We'll be back next Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. right here on 97.7 Canyon Country, your first choice for legendary country.
Until then, stay safe, stay kind, and as always, keep it real, Cochise County.
What's in a name? Everything. Long Realty has been a cornerstone of Southern Arizona's real estate market for nearly 100 years. Our name is our bond, and our agents are our strength. Trust in the name that stands for experience and expertise. Visit longrealty.com or call 520-459-4993 to connect with an agent today. Long Realty. Smart move. What's in a name? Everything. Long Realty has been a cornerstone of Southern Arizona's real estate market for nearly 100 years. Our name is our bond, and our agents are our strength. Trust in the name that stands for experience and expertise. Visit longrealty.com or call 520-459-4993 to connect with an agent today. Long Realty. Smart move.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Keepin' It Real radio show. Join us next Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. for more engaging interviews with top realtors and industry leaders, keeping you informed about the latest trends in real estate. Stay connected with us as we bring you updates on the dynamic events shaping our vibrant community. From exciting local happenings to noteworthy charities and causes, we've got you covered. See you next week for another edition of Keepin' It Real.